In this lesson, we are going to take a look at process wireframes as a technique that you can use to enable you to be able to express your ideas about how your process is actually going to work. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reach out and we're going to take a look at some examples within using Microsoft Visio, because actually it's quite a good product for this, but there will be lots of tools that you can use online. But I think there are some quite interesting templates that we can use to get us into the idea of what a wireframe actually is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump straight into a demo, and I'm going to show you a process wireframe, and then we're going to jump back here and then we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'll see you over there. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a search for Microsoft Visio, and then we're just going to do templates and then click on there, because I know that we've actually got some quite useful templates that we can make use of. So here is the place that I like to go to, and there we are, just down there, featured Visio templates and diagrams. And what you can see is a number of them there. The one that I want to look at is the credit approval process. So I can actually click on open template, and it's actually just gonna open that template online for me via the web there. So as you can see on screen, we've got this is a wireframe of a process for approving credit. And what you can see is that you've got options to move things around, and you can add new elements in. Now, what's important to note about this particular one is that in this particular space here, it indicates the particular user that is relevant at that point. So in this instance, it actually starts in the sales area, and then the suggestion there is that first of all there's a sales call, and then you go through that process. So this is a template here, and you can see that there's different elements here. So you can see that you can drag things like documents onto the screen. These are basic flowchart shapes. You can change the color, etc., etc. And then you can actually link them to different parts of the process. But the reason why this is useful is it indicates the user. That's really, really important, and that may tell you things about the data model that you're trying to create. It will also tell you something about how many people are using this, which then talks about security of the application that you're trying to create as well, and all of the different tables that you will need to support your process. But as you can see, it's actually relatively easy to use. I'll just have a little go at there's a little trick to being able to bring in the different elements, but you can certainly add different parts into this area. And this is kind of a concept of a swim lane. And then you can bring that in. So you can bring in another swim lane because you decide that this is important, and it might be, I don't know, it might be operations. You can bring that into this space. And then perhaps there would be another element that you would then bring in here in order to make that work. And then you've got the different connectors that you'd be able to use, and you have to go hunting around for those. So I'll type in connector, and I think there's a whole area for connectors. So do be careful of trying to get to the right place. As you can see on the left hand side here, there are loads and loads of shapes that you could choose to bring into this. I would just be concentrating on the connector side of things, so that you can actually make sure that the elements of your application actually hang together. I would also consider using color as a way of indicating what the purpose of the various elements is in this instance. Finally, I finally found the bit on connectors. Just shows how little I use this. I really should actually use it much more, and I'm advising you to use it, and it genuinely is a very useful tool for you to use. So you can then once you're into this area, you can add the connectors in, and you just literally drag from one place to the other, and that is how you actually make these things work. So you can add another one in, perhaps it's a straight line. In fact, that one's changed to a straight line. I typically would do right angle ones. They make more sense to me, and if they're not quite in the right place, you can then sort of move them around by clicking on them appropriately. So you can then just do that. You can actually see that now actually it makes a bit more sense. Clearly it doesn't make any sense in the context of this particular process, but it gives you an idea that this is actually something that you could genuinely, you know, if you actually got it right, you can actually see there's a bit of a page break there, but you could actually kind of print this out reasonably easily and in a way that would help you to look at it. And my advice on wireframes is, if they look complicated, if they have lines that are crossing over each other, then that's usually a bad sign, and you should really have a good think about whether or not you've got everything absolutely right on this. So we've taken a look at our very first process wireframe. I mean, don't be, you know, too upset if you feel actually you prefer to write it down on some paper. As I say, there are lots of other tools that you can use. This is a pretty good one. And the first thing to note is that they are a visual expression of the ideas. In fact, it's really a visual expression of the process that you're actually going to be engaged in, which is really relevant to business. It really does work, and it's a great way of being able to share that idea. So you can see this icon based. What I would advise you to do is not to use too many kinds of icons in the same place, and use icons for the intention that they were intended for. So by that I mean that when you use the rhombus shape, that is usually a decision that's being made there, and you can see there's document shapes. Use the things in a way that people will be expecting to see them. Do use those swim lanes because they are really, really important. They tell us about who owns what at a particular point in time. You can see that you can see that this is a very systematic way of expressing the way in which something travels through a system, and it's something that personally I really work very well with, looking at ideas expressed in a visual fashion, and it allows me to just look at it and look at it and look at it, and it's that process of looking at it that reinforces the process, or makes you realize that there's an element of the process that's maybe completely missing on here. So and it's the fact it's systematic that allows us to be able to think in this particular way. As you can see, it's visually concise. We can get that onto a single pane of glass, and I think that's really important as far as expressing our ideas around process, because expressing ideas around process isn't easy, and you certainly can't get away with just having meetings with large groups of people and saying, oh well, this is the process, because you can all be in a room and have a different idea about what that process is. So the process wireframe can be a center for what everyone has agreed on at a point in time. As you can see, they fit onto a single pane of glass, and consequently they are easy to share. What I didn't show you on this is that you can actually have different tabs for a particular process. So if the process got quite complicated, you can actually break that process out onto another screen. So that's something to note there. Finally, it's easy to study, and I would recommend that you share the wireframe out to people in your organization and the business users, and make sure that that is established at quite an early stage, because it really will define the fields that you need, the tables that you need. We'll see that later on. Okay, I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you in the next one.